to be had. I know that both these teams can get scrappy early, but Red potentially with a little bit more confidence given that they've got that Olaf. Instead, we're going to see that standard 5 point, and early on, I think jungle tracking, of course, is going to be the most important thing for Loud to prioritize. I'd like to see them invade for a ward onto Aegis, just so they can know where that Lee Sin is at and where he's likely to be going. You don't want your bot lane, this very vulnerable, I'll say, Aphelios and Nautilus to be targeted, because when Nautilus does choose to go in, you want it to be on their own terms, not because somebody else decided that you're fighting.
Yeah, especially with the Glacial Augment rune, right? You're a lot less tanky than compared to something like Guardian or Aftershock. So Sears will be sitting on the hot seat a little bit for this game at least. On the other side, well, Titan and Scamber. Those are the two that are going to be more or less the stars of the Red for early game, I'd assume at least, because I feel like Aegis is going to throw a lot of the tension that way. Bol should be winning top lane, because, well, Olaf is just better than Gnar. And you can see Robo starting with the boots and 4 pots already.
Nice job from Tinones on that invade as well. Does pop in and get the ward onto Aegis, so a nice bit of early jungle tracking in the matchup against Aurelion. So Annie should have options, especially given her extended auto range. But speaking of autos, directly to the face, Robo on the receiving end of quite a bad trade. And I gotta be honest with you, Lethe, that's kind of how the matchup's gonna go.
Yep. Chop, chop. And quite a lot of it. It is a bold pick. And Robo's main mission here is going to be survive.
You know that Halo meme? The objective, survive? That's
exactly what I was going for.
I was hoping. Yeah. When you said it, that's exactly what I thought of. I'm taking a look at the minimap now and noticing that Aegis has popped over with a pretty darn quick clear. Croc changing up his as well, starting with the Wolves and then making his way down. Both junglers wanting to be in range of their bot lanes lest anything kick off, and things are kicking off. Teton and Scamber have been playing past the minion wave for the past, I don't know, minute and 30 seconds or so, taking no prisoners, shooting out as much poke as they like onto Seos and Root, and you can see why the Zeri Lulu lane is so powerful.
Exactly. You dish out so much damage in the early game, and yes, in theory this is very risky, but if you are planning for your jungler to path bot side, to be there in case an early gank from the Viego comes in, or, well, you just can get a lane gank from the Lee Sin in or something, you are in a great position to kick off the early game. But both junglers now hovering around mid lane, we could get a little bit of a 2v2, and Aegis, well, both and he and Croc are level 3. It's going to be a trade for Scuttle Crab. Nothing too crazy going on yet. So, yeah, he's roaming down. He's trying to contest, but the smite, really, no one taking anything from Croc right now.
I gotta say, I really like that move, though. Trying to interrupt just a little bit on the Scuttle Crab, make life a little more inconvenient for Croc and keep this Viego on the back foot. It's not so much about shutting down an early game threat in the Viego as it is limiting the options of really the one person that can even the numbers across the map. Aegis has been trying to find different areas of the map to affect, did lean towards bot lane, didn't find anything there, and now has just had transitioned up through the mid lane, but this Lee Sin should be looking for an earlier play, and with the dragon about to come up, there is no better time to make it than after first recall.
Most likely the first very attractive target for Aegis here. But you gotta say, in general, Loud doing a very good job not to put themselves into a very gankable position in these first few minutes, so not really that much agency for Aegis in the last 4. Overall, quite honestly, very possible that we will just have to wait for these objective fights to come in. Avenger looking for a little bit of ward coverage. And overall, man, I was expecting more action from this early.
It's all in the hands of Red, and they're the ones choosing to play it out a little bit slow, taking the lanes that they know are winning and just transitioning that into an early lead. If you actually look at the CS numbers in bot lane, it says a lot. Really favorable recall happened for Red. They've got the push here, and they do have a lot of pressure, especially with Avenger having just recalled, taken the reset, bought a few items. Dragon is available. Teleport's been committed to the mid lane, but Teton is going on the invade, something that you are allowed to do on this area, but this still looks a little ridiculous.
Okay, a little bit lucky that there was no vision for Loud in that moment to spot Titan going over the wall. Otherwise, they could have engaged on him just like this, Croc flashing in, and Titan actually gets punished for overstaying his welcome in the river. First blood goes to Loud.
As he should. It's a big throw on the side of Red, not recognizing that they were vulnerable in those moments where Zeri could no longer pop over the wall and into safety. Loud recognized it as well, and it's going to be an Uno reverse card, getting themselves the most pressure around this Drake. A Drake that should transition into a much easier game for them. For every objective that Loud pick up before the 20-minute mark, Red fall further behind. They have less of a window to execute on what is a ultimately quite narrow mid-game win condition.
And those win conditions, I think we gotta talk about those for a second here, right? Because Loud very much looks like this team fight hammer comp, this sledgehammer that's just gonna hit you in the face once they actually get to put on some weight. And on the other side, I mean, you already mentioned, right? Red really wants to get rolling and wants to steamroll, run at you.
That they do. I'm looking at the Loud comp as well and thinking, outside of really Olaf, who's scary, and will Olaf really be that terrifying if he doesn't get a few kills? Because yes, there's a decent amount of CC on Loud that isn't going to connect with somebody like this massive frontliner. There's also a lot of damage, and Olaf, if anything, in Ragnarok, does not have as much ability to deal with that. I'm expecting it to be the turning point in the fight when we see Bull trying to engage and ultimately not able to because of the amount of damage that Loud are throwing into his face at the moment. Until then, though, Red do have time to make plays. They're continuing to make, I'd say, good use of it, finding lane pressure despite the early mishap in the bot lane. And with the Rift Herald now coming up, things are starting to open up a little bit more. Tinon's going to go for an aggressive trade.
Yeah, gonna deny the recall on the ward. Avenger will now be aware that he is indeed sitting on some vision. But overall, I think Avenger is someone we need to talk about in this matchup as well, right? Oh, good ward by Robo. They spot that Aegis is around, but he connects the Sonic Wave.
Oh.
Beautifully done. Robo uses the hop, needs to flash over, but
Mega,
Aegis
Mega.
is ready for it, kicks him into the wall on the blast cone, and
He's got
Bull
6.
follows up, chop, chop, kill for Red. What a beautiful play by Aegis.
Getting a little too antsy there, an overextension in the top side for Loud, much like there was in the bot side for Red. But what I'm noticing here is that our frontliners just picked up kills. Our frontliners that need that additional HP and gold that comes with each subsequent takedown. It's big for the Red top lane, but they are also losing in the bot lane because Tinones is just farming it up down here, zoning out both members of the bot side, while Root is able to pick up tower plate after tower plate. This may even be first brick if Red can't step up to it.
Yeah, but in the meantime, it's a repeat gank. Robo doesn't have the flash. He gets the hop. The Sonic Wave misses. So does the Undertow. Unlucky situation here for Red. But
That's first
we
brick.
gotta get back to what Loud is doing in this bot lane, right? Because this is another gank. The depth charge comes in. Scamber overstayed his welcome. Once again, the bot lane gets punished. This turret is done. And Rout is very, very happy with the turret first blood. I was gonna talk about the mid laners making impact, especially Avenger on this Aurelion Soul. But it is Tinones that pulls the trigger first. And Robo, he once again barely gets out.
And it ends Tinones again that we're looking at for Loud. Stays for so long in that bot side. We get a quick replay of what happened over by the Rift Herald. This was tragic and a really nice kick, I'll say.
Yeah, pretty good. Well played by Aegis. Deserved pickoff. But the playmaking in the meantime on the bot lane was just beautiful from Loud.
that it was. I really appreciate that they sacrificed a little bit of mid momentum, even some plating, to the hands of Avenger, just to get that extra pressure from Tinones to find an early tower, a big injection of gold into their AD carry. Root has the most gold in the game and the first mythic item as, I'd say, the centerpiece of the scaling for the side of Loud. This is the best investment they could have possibly made. We looked at that Nautilus Aurelian. We looked at that Nautilus Aphelios lane and went, is this the move? Well, when Aphelios has 1,000 gold on his laner, doesn't really matter what the champion is because he's that rich.
Yeah, basically, I mean, Titan now needs to be worried about Aphelios just pressing Gale Force and murdering him, so not really a fun situation to be in as this area, especially since Titan started off this game so well with a solid CS lead, but the Herald picked up. Red still making some plays. The Comet going wide. Avenger not hitting the ult as much as he would have liked. But still, that's a bunch of turret platings going to the pockets of Red.
A pretty decent play. It's even for now. I would have liked to see, and I don't know what the timer was like, them save it for a little bit more pressure on the Dragon, because remember, Loud do already have one, and they've got the first turret of the game, and it's in bot lane. The pressure is insurmountable at this point, and when you're looking at Red and you're saying this composition should be having its heyday at around 15 to 20 minutes, and we're about to come up on that 15-minute mark with second Dragon going over to Loud already, you can't help but feel like Red's falling behind. They're not out of the game. They've got plenty of tools, even in the late game, but it doesn't feel good. Up towards the top side, Robo's not feeling too good.
He gets chunked out hard, but gets away. Red was so sure that he would burn down, but he survives. Lucky break for Robo. Good teleport in by Tinones for the support as well, forcing them off the turret. But still, the pressure that Red can find in the top side is massive.
Avengers. Oh, I gotta live through this fight. Does make it out, thankfully, but crashing that CS in the bottom lane is really the biggest advantage, and I'm putting that in quotes, that Red are going to get over the course of the past 2 minutes. Just being able to do that, everything else really going fine for Loud, especially because Robo lived there. Again, I have to agree with you there, Lethe. Utterly ridiculous that he's alive. Shouldn't have happened. Shouldn't be possible. And yet, Loud will take it for all it's worth. Continue expanding their pressure, expanding their horizons, and leaving Root in the mid lane, because his CS, his lead over the entire enemy team is only going to continue growing.
Indeed. 2-0 up, 120 CS, a BF sword and a pickaxe in his pockets. That's an IE, just waiting to be finished. And we're not even hitting 14 minutes. They're still plating up for grabs for another 40 seconds, although I don't really see the potential of that coming through, with everyone of Red hovering around this mid lane. But we got to talk about Robo in the bot lane, now going over to this split push menace that the Gnar turns into, and taking on this tier 2 turret. That would be a massive influx of gold if he actually manages to take it down, and Red very slow on the response, but Robo all by himself. This time around, he might not get away as Aegis connects onto a minion.
Oh my god.
Back. How does Robo get out here, man? That is insane.
I thought he overstayed as well. I am very surprised, and I'm sure Red is, that they weren't able to pick up that kill, but the rest of Loud sort of left it. They weren't pressuring for any objectives. They were trusting in their top laner to make it out alive. It does work for the moment. Just these little bits of gold continuing to fall into the pockets of Loud as they apply map pressure, and it's a sort of transitive state in between objectives. We've got that next Rift Herald coming up in about 30 seconds. Dragon going to follow about 2 minutes after, and both of those objectives are things that Loud should be looking to control the flow of the game around so that Red never get a fair fight.
Indeed. And in the meantime, they're trying to make map movements this time around. Aegis with the plays. Once again, the kick onto Robo lands properly. Titan flashes after, and this could be a very important kill onto the Zeri. Turret taken down as well. Red making some moves and getting some goals. In the meantime, top lane, there were some attempts from Loud to make something happen, but they don't find Ball, they don't get the turret, but they go for the Herald.
Excellent recognition by Red that there was going to be a lot of pressure towards the top side for Loud, but not a whole lot of backup for the mid lane. The Robo that is constantly left alone. That's how Loud love to play. Leaving Robo alone is sort of one-man army, letting Croc and Tinons roam around and do their thing, and this is the punish. This is where Red can start to actually get ahead. They've just taken down that mid lane tower, and while it isn't the first tower of the game, it's the first mid lane tower that's fallen. Now they've equalized bot turrets as well. They're in a state where the map is actually in their advantage, especially as we approach the dragon. If they can keep their mid lane tower up for the next minute, then Red have absolutely got a chance, I would say a fighting chance, at this next Drake.
Indeed. Ball now also finishing his stride breaker. But they are up against Rod, who has, well, as we can see, 80% win rate when he hits a gold lead at 15 minutes. And quite honestly, this is a 2-item Aphelios at 16 minutes going into the first team fights. Yes, you have picked up a shield bow on Titan. You have Avenger with the Rod of Aegis and a little bit of extra items. But still, the power spike and the power level definitely favoring Loud here unless you pick up this Aphelios early.
Yeah, the thing that's changing this for Red is that tower and the fact that we're at the 15-minute mark, where Red's composition should traditionally spike. One item is where their champions should be stronger than yours, and Red will need to find some sort of creative way of making that true now that they've lost the lead. Avenger on a flank right now, setting up for the fight, but Dragon is the focus for both of these squads, and Loud gonna instantly retreat to that, putting themselves into the choke. In comes Avenger.
Yep, there comes the flight, there comes the comet, and deep into the backline goes the Olaf Ragnarok and roll, but Rout is a little too tanky. The return damage comes in, massive Gnar into the wall, and even Aegis cannot find a kill onto Seos. Red turning tail and running for the hills as Croc is looking for the cleanup duty here. The janitor job definitely works well for him as he picks up a quick double. And almost the full ace for Loud.
Beautiful play from Loud as well, fading into that river, absorbing the push and the stopwatch from Tinons at the perfect time. He and Seos able to stall out for so long as Red piled in trying to back up Avenger. It gets them not just the fight, not just the tower, but the dragon as well. The thing that Loud had prioritized initially. I want to take a look at that again. Look at Avenger's engage, separates himself from the team, goes for this big ult, and instantly is met with CC and 0 damage onto the enemy team. Root is able to kite back with that early Gale Force that he picked up, and from there, it's a clean front to back from Loud. It's what their composition was meant to do, and it's backed up by the massive cojones of Seos just walking up in the face of a jungler at 100 HP and saying, no, you don't get to move.
It's just clean, perfect execution of what they wanted to do, right? Especially Rout, you gotta commend here. With the Lulu ult just being tanky enough to survive that initial engage from Ball and the hold back from this whole engage good enough that no one else was able to follow up on this Aphelios. If Ball had been able to pick up a kill there, I think this fight would have looked completely different. But this way, Loud, pick up a tier 2 mid lane, pick up a dragon, and are on soul point now.
At this point, game is running away from Red. However, we've got to mention that this happened yesterday against Vivo Cade Stars, where Red were seemingly out of the game, at a complete loss for what to do, and ended up winning it in a series of completely ludicrous team fights. We may be seeing the building blocks of that once again, for as Loud look to press their advantage and take as much as they can during this time. Baron is coming up, and Baron is famously the place where teams fall apart in any region.
It is indeed. But we got to talk about some of the other carries on the side of Loud as well once we're heading into those fights, right? Tenons has been doing a great job, as you mentioned. This stopwatch usage, just absorbing so much pressure. But Croc is sitting on a 4-0 Viego with a Kraken Slayer. And at the moment, Loud has so much power, so much wind in their sails, They're just moving across the map and snowballing the game wherever they can. 2 tier 2 turrets now picked up. Top lane, most likely going to be the next address that they're going to go for. There's 2 more turrets to be picked up, and the gold lead quickly ballooning up to 5k now.
It says so much that we got a perfect falling star out of Avenger on that push, and that it was used to stall. It was used to keep Red alive. It wasn't an engage tool for them. It's just a lose less tool. And unfortunately, that's where Red are at right now. I'm looking for their hope during the later stages of this game, and right now, until you get Teton caught up to Root, I don't know if that win condition truly exists. It's going to have to be styling, Aegis finding a crucial insect at the right time, combined with a perfect falling star. If those 3 things, if those 3 stars, if you'll pardon the pun, align, then we could see Red walking away with the team fight. But before that, your AD carries just can't fight with each other, so you can't either.
And you can see Road already building towards the Bloodthirster, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to make it even harder for a Bull to just dive the backline and take him out, because that's a lot. That's where a lot of the hope lies as well for Red, right? Because Bull is the only one that can reliably connect onto this Aphelios, at least to some extent. It's not an easy spot to be in, but once again, we're waiting for objectives to spawn. Loud, preparing the waves, trying to get the map state favorable to play around this Baron, and of course, Dragon Soul, Cloud Soul coming up in a minute 20.
Zanya's complete on Tinons at this point, and we've got a stopwatch in the inventory of Croc. Those are also 2 big playmaking tools that Loud have, and crucially, that Red do not. No stopwatches, no stasis of any kind on the Red roster. They don't have the ability to, in a team fight, dictate where the pressure is for at least the 2 or 3 seconds where you are invulnerable. So we approach this next Drake, as you mentioned just after the last fight, what will be Soul for Loud. It is a Cloud Soul. It's not game over for Red, but the chances that they can contest that successfully are abysmal.
Indeed. And we were talking about how Red just recently recovered from this massive 4-game loss streak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even yesterday, as you mentioned, against the last place team, they looked shaky at best. And it really seems like whatever problems were plaguing this team, they're still not done yet. They are not through the grimes of the worst of it. But it's also a team that has some incredible experience. They got a good amount of mental fortitude. So if there's a team in CBLOL that can come back from a game state like this, I think it is Red. And they gotta prove some patience. They gotta find that one miracle fight down the road, because they cannot contest this Cloud Soul. Even that is gonna go over too Loud for free.
No additional pressure needed. It's not the 5-man take that we've seen before. It's just a slow bleed out of Red, who know that they cannot do anything. As we approach the next objective, which is already up, by the way, Baron is that thing, that great equalizer where Red might look to take a fight, and even that is starting to slip further out of their control. A little bit of vision on it now, some vision in their own jungle, but it's just because Loud haven't bothered to take it away yet. Into the jungle marches Seos, starting up the job, starting up the setup. Loud want this Baron.
And it is theirs to take, judging by current states of the game. As mentioned, they just picked up the Cloud Soul, are still 4,000 gold ahead, although that lead hasn't really grown in the last few minutes. And in the meantime, Seos and Tinons are looking for a fight. Bull going in hard. Here comes the Moonlight Vigil. Massive bomb coming in, flying at the faces of Red and immediately exploding their jungler. That's the Smite gone. The Olaf forced out with all ults and summoners burned. This is a lost situation here for Red. and they need to pull back. This Baron will go over to Loud.
You send Tibbers out to scout because, especially without the Lee Sin, there's nothing else to do. An extra teleport for a little bit of insurance brings in the cavalry, and Tinones reappears in the mid lane to get this push going while everyone else goes on the reset. But Loud are wasting absolutely no time. They've got that Baron, they've got the resources that they need, and now it's time to start cracking the base down. There are not that many towers left outside of it for the side of red, and once Loud are done with this Baron, I expect there to be at least 2 inhibitors down.
Maybe 3. I could see that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Baroned up team with 6,000 gold lead, a 3-item Aphelios at 25 minutes, and on top of that, a Viego that has not died a single time this game. Loud putting on an absolute clinic of the game. And Robo, well, Robo is literally the only one that has died in the early game. It is dominant that Loud is showing here.
Push into the top side. The answer for red, not really going to be present. Watch that ultimate from Aurelian Soul, as it is the least committal engage that could still go well for them. Trying to output some damage, does get caught underneath the tower for a second, but that tower is melting, and so are red! What?
With the Moonlight Vigil! Oh my god, it is insane! Loud! Find the fight, and this is gonna be game!
Did I say at least 2 inhibitors? I think I did. I can't believe that I overestimated what Loud would do with that. The team fight from them underneath the tower was the most one-sided thing I think I've ever seen in CBLOL. Red didn't get to play the game.
That was disgusting. What a performance from Loud.